Hey, what's up, brothers and sisters? This is the Reluctant Nabi back again. And I wanted to bring this back up, right? Because I want to combine it with another story, and we'll dig further deep into this, right? Because this story kind of gets more sickening by the day, and people would hope that we don't pay attention to this, especially as Afro men. All right. But so thorough is the betrayal of the Afro man by the BAW that only in America can this happen when something that is so conceivably wrong according to the white man's laws, right, gets a pass from primarily black women in this community that keeps electing this man. All right. And this story is deeper than it, but this has everything to do with daughters of the trade. All right. As a lady documented the betrayal of the the Afro people, and I say Afro men, by way of the black woman in Africa. Okay, well documented as to how they got into the interior. I mean, the colonizer. It was with the help of just going through the black woman, period. And if if just to prove a point, you have this case with Morrissey's, and they call it old timey photo. But no, the Afro people were calling this racist. This was a racist photo, that this was the picture that they took with his son, but this is deeper. His son. And remember, it's his son. It is the Caucasian seed being carried on by the black woman to further oppress Afro people. Because why? Because it seems that we seem to be that dumb as a people to keep voting for people that are doing this kind of things. Rules for us, but not for them. The same rules doesn't apply to them. There was no outcry for this man as there was for R. Kelly, right? And that's because the people doing the outcrying was the black woman who's always been betraying us. All right, so this is going to be kind of a longer video because this is fully broken down by the author of The Daughters of the Trade and the research and a lot of other things that tie into this. All right. It was one of my old Hangouts. Remember when Google had Google Hangouts? All right. And so basically, let's get into this. First, let me greet everybody. Havorden Hardu Guda Ola Oi to the Bang Vasas Los Bonjour Mesami Kedabawani Konichiwa. Ni ani ama sani bonani John Barbaga ni assalamu alaikum shalom. Kamusta ka, kamusta po kayo, talafalava sois fua to my brother in Hawaii. And let me remind you, my donation links are in the description box, my PayPal me, and my Cash App. But remember, you always take care of a home and family first. Take care of yourself first before you donate to anybody. But we trying to do a lot, so if you can help out, hey, it'll be most welcome. Y'all know what we do. All right. And don't forget I want to hear your comments in the comment section. Don't forget the thumbs up too. But I want to hear what y'all have to say about this. All right. So now, shows former delegate, right? Now, I'm gonna give you what an Afro man wrote about it, and we're going to go in depth, and we're going to do a separate video on this particular story. But this ties into how Africa was infiltrated, right? It goes into how our culture and history was stolen from us by allowing them to go through the BAW, and then her selling out even her own family. All right, tell you a little more on this. So this is former Virginia delegate Joe Morrissey, right? And so this was one report. He spent weeks paying coy after his teenage secretary, whom he was accused of having sexual relationships with when she was 17-year-old, gave birth to a baby in March. Now, she became his secretary at 16, so he was shebang-wanging her around 16. But when this baby came out when she was 17, then they knew for sure, you know, you couldn't hide it anymore, right? So, Morrissey's district predominantly African American, right? His voters faithfully have reelected him throughout his political tenure as a representative of the Henrico County, Virginia. His private law practice is based out of Henrico. He has deep, long-lasting ties to the community that, right or wrong, has seen some benefit and continue to elect him to office. And this is, so her mother was in on it. Her mother got into an argument with her father, for some of you that remember the story when I did this, right? And these black women support him wholeheartedly. But guess what? That is the community. Black women have always had us outnumbered, and they don't do what is in the best interest of the community. Black women only care about black women. And they tell you as much all the time. All right, they dissed Ice Cube. Well, you talking about the whole community. It needs to be just for black women, not for Afro men, not for Afro boys. Now, when you look at this story right here on its face, now this next story, Daughters of the Trade, and the whole thing that I go through, and it's a long one. This was like an hour, 30-minute long hangout. So y'all could piece through it. All right, and y'all could go to the last 20 minutes as the woman runs the rundown. All right, and let's say go to the last 30 minutes, right? And listen to what she has to say. And you can understand that the betrayal is so thick that to get any kind of leverage, the BAW will sell out the whole community, which is why even when we do better than the Caucasians, it'll never be good enough for the BAW, because they want stuff to be just for them, not as a community, not as a family, just for the BAW. Everyone else works together as a family, unit, community. Think about it. So let's get into this.
Hey everybody, what's up? This is the refugetemplenabi back again. Another very important video. So y'all know, y'all seen the video I did before talking about the daughters of the slave trade. All right. I just wanted to do this one real quick for this reason. What's up, Kirby Crosby? The main reason I wanted to do this is we got to understand this slave trade for what it really was. Okay. And understand this, we're talking about chattel slavery. And the reason why chattel slavery is called chattel slavery is that it is the only time in history where systemically there were policies in place to rob people of their origin, identity, and everything else that goes along with that. Okay, now as we talk about this and the real, all right, as we talk about this, you got a couple of things going on in this. One of the main things is people are now trying to get the black woman out. And these people would be the white men. The very ones that tell you, well, the Irish were slaves. As if they're comparing indentured servitude to slavery, chattel slavery. All right. And so, since the brothers didn't bite on that, what really started to happen was this event. That brothers start doing a lot of research. After that, you try to teach us, we're calling BS. And we won't follow. Hold on. All right, so this is what we have here, right? So we have a woman that did some more research. All right. And I find it kind of, the irony is not lost on me as to what, that it would take a woman to uncover this. And that it would take a woman to uncover this because it's mind-blowing when you really look at this. All right. Hold on for a minute. Hold on for a second. One of the things that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna figure out how to use my Facebook. I don't know how many people are on here, but I'm wondering if somebody else can somebody else put pictures on your Facebook that's public to everybody else? All right. So there's that thing. Hold on for a second. And so, as we take this new journey right now in this discussion, we're gonna keep this real. All right, what's up, Kirby? What's up, Afro Truth? All right, I'm basically right now starting to get the message out that I'm on. Hold on for a second. Back in trouble. Free speech. Relationship. Just hold on for a second. That means from this inspection. red rose. Is that the roof? Around. Escape the matrix. What is 59? The black man can be honest. Black women do that. Any town here? All right, so I'm about done with this in a minute. Except the fairy tale. All right, so when we look at the behavior, all right, of the modern day black woman, come to find out that there's an easy reason to there's an easy way to understand their behavior. All right, and in my geology classes and stuff like that, in my history class, and with all this history coming out, the true history, right? We never really put all the whole picture together. All right, I told you about Queen Nzinga. All right, how, you know, she kind of betrayed us to the nth, right? I told you about that. Now, what then happens is that we have a woman that does research, and she comes up with this thing, Daughters of the Slave Trade. All right, Colonial Ibsen. Now, what she does is that she puts research and all the rest of that behind what we've been saying. A lot of us have been saying we have been betrayed by the black woman. All right. But we didn't understand something else. When I did the video explaining where jazz come from, I don't know how many of y'all remember the video when I explained where jazz comes from. All right, but that video was an eye-opener as to the status of the black women and the children that they were having with the Spanish and with the French. Now, I want you to keep this in mind, that the Portuguese, the Spanish, and the French had the same colorism rules and the same hierarchy for everybody. And that hierarchy was based on color. All right, so let me break this down real quick. First, let me send the rest of this stuff out. Okay, so as I break this down, all right, let me make some things kind of clear here. All right, let me do a couple things real quick. All right, so a couple of things that I want to break down for you to understand is this. There was a policy that the French, the Spanish, and the Portuguese have that the English did not have. All right. Hold on for a second. Okay. So let me break this down for you. First, what's a okay, DK Phantom. All right. One of the things I want to break down for you is this. That what a lot of people weren't realizing or weren't doing was putting the entire history together. All right, so we never put the history together. We never did due diligent. We did diligent research, but nobody just really gathered things together is because we did research from just out of our corner, right? And let me explain to you what I mean. I, by trade, was a lab tech before I retired. I knew things about the blood, and that was what it was, right? I understood some history, right? But I wasn't able to put all the history together because we didn't look at all the history. You can't look at all the history by taking history. All right. So allow me to break down what I'm talking about. And why this Daughters of the Trade is so significant. The Daughters of the Trade is so significant because it gives documentation as to who married whom. So the Daughters of the Trade not only put together what we pretty much, some of us already knew, all right, and trust me, it was stuff that they tried to keep from being taught in school of how the slave trade really was, all right, and that's when you look at why women get all these privileges, especially the black woman. The black woman was more privileged than even the Caucasian woman in the United States. I know that sounds bizarre, but understand this. The black woman was the most protected because she was protected by the Caucasian man so long as she gave up the goods, which she did. That's how she got here. All right. And she was protected by the Afro man. But so volatile was she to the Afro man that she could call the triple K Caucasian man on the Afro man and have him in some tree somewhere. Okay, now how most of us found out about this is we had some people like in in our YouTube things, in a online that had grandfathers. Some were old enough to have fathers that were done in by their mothers because the mothers were having relationship with the Triple K crew. All right. Now you see these women, these black women, continuing this same thing and writing books online, doing everything to promote that black women should go back to, well, originally what they were doing during slavery. All right. So here's the breakdown. Remember, as I told you how jazz was created. Okay, as I told you how jazz was created, right? All right, jazz was created because when Jefferson bought the territories of Napoleon, through the Louisiana Purchase, it changed instantly, overnight, the status of all the mulattoes and the black women that were the wives or concubines of the French. All right. So the so-called black woman was never really on our side. As a matter of fact, many of the black women that ended up over here came as concubines or wives to the slave traders. Okay, so understand this, right? And so, as such, these women receive a level of privilege from out of the teeth of danger. Okay, and let me explain how this worked. So when we go back to Daughters of the Slave Trade, it's on Amazon. Okay, you can buy the book on Amazon, right? But when we go back to Daughters of the Slave Trade, you will take note that the lady was pointing out that the Dutch was able to gain inroads into Africa because of marrying the black woman and then taking their version of marriage to the African chiefs and portray getting them to buy into that version of marriage. Whereas if the Dutch married the woman, well, they were required to give the Dutch some territory, and and so they became a part of the community. But little did we understand that when the Caucasians become a part of the community, they're doing it to eventually stab you in the back, because everything is about money, capitalism. This world will be destroyed by capitalism. Hold on. So, as this woman is documenting, she is pointing out something that when you point out, look at this research by Dr. Joy DeGruy, all right, the problem that the black women had was the English. So let's go back into this history some more. All right. In this history, all right, as I told you, the French, the reason why jazz was able to be, jazz started in New Orleans, as they say, and the reason why it got its start there is because jazz is a fusion of European parlor songs and the improvisation of the Afro male music. Okay? So why didn't jazz start until after the Louisiana Purchase? Under French culture, the French always had mistresses. They're known for that. There's jokes about it and all the rest of that. So when the French was running the slaves in Louisiana and all of that, remember, I told you that 68% of the black slave owners were women. Black women. 68% of the black slave owners was black women. The rest of that were the offspring of the black woman and white man. All right? An out and outright offspring of the Afro man did not own slaves. And let's make this clear. We're talking about chattel slavery. All right? So now that you're getting a picture, so as I put up, put in my music notes, and I've already covered it. So yeah, look for another title, Daughters of the Trade, in the videos for that, because I'm not going to go too in depth, but I'm gonna put all the dots together in this video right here. All right, so you have this. You have Queen Nzinga. You know, these people that's trying to tout how she stood up against the Portuguese and this and that. The woman was a cannibal of her own people. She was a thought in a 304. Remember, she had a harem of 60 men that would die, 60 simps that would die to lay in bed with her at night, knowing that they were going to die at the end of that. Ulysses, Happy New Year, man. All right, so let's break this down now. All right, let's simmer down now. All right. So now you got the narrative that the poor old black woman was raped and all this stuff during slavery, and there was no black man to protect her. All right. These were out and outright lies. All right. Because according to research, and much of it, all right, according to research, these women were willing participants in this trade. As a matter of fact, without such, the slave trade could not have begun. You heard, for those, I don't think all y'all heard me. If it wasn't for the black woman procreating with the Dutch, the slave trade would have not begun. Period. The sole reason, I kept saying that the black woman is the sole reason of our misery here. All right. So as we break this down, the sole reason for this was she was married and procreating with the European slaves. Now, when we read and did a little piece of, well, let's go back and look at it, right? As Dr. Ibsen states, that when the first woman married the Dutch, she kept her name, but when they had a male child, the male child took on a Dutch man's name. It got so bad that these women were doing it just to say that they have a baby from a European. Even though they knew that that baby wasn't going to be around. This is where the hierarchy started. The Europeans started putting their sons in charge of things over the Africans. You know, because that superiority thing. The Africans were being hospitable because that's what people teach. They, to this day, there is a sense of hospitality that they have for strangers, even if they may not like you. Understand? So, what happens next? As these women create as we get into this, right? This created a bit of prestige for these African women. Now, keep in mind, we are an indigenous people, Aboriginal. Bones, they done dug up bones and found this out. Okay, so it's like the no-brainer. Okay, now, so what happens with this? In all of this process, right, since Eve, it has always been easy for somebody evil and wicked to sell us out using the so-called black woman. All right. And so what ended up happening is that during this time, what ended up happening was this, that these women saw prestige in being with their husbands. All right, so these women wanted the prestige of being with their husbands, right? They preferred the European lifestyle, treachery, deceit, all the rest of this. But understand it. Unlike their Caucasian counterpart, the European had to treat them in somewhat of an African way. And this is why when you look at the French, the Spanish, and Portuguese, that they had a level of hierarchy based on color. They didn't do we don't give a F. Everybody that has one drop See, because, hold on, wait a minute. In these cultures, the first people of slavery, the Dutch, the Portuguese, the Spanish, and the French. All right, these are the Romance, as they say, language. Understand this. This is the Roman language. That's why it's called the Romance language, right? So the Romans, what they did is they divided people based on color and your relationship to the Caucasian male. So underneath the white woman was the black woman. Underneath the white child was the black woman's child that she had from the French, Spanish, Portuguese, and the Dutch. All right. The whole time, understand this, the so-called black woman knew that she was selling out the community. As a matter of fact, the reason why they knew so much about the Israelites, the reason why they knew so much about the different things, the different entrances, the different ways in how to negotiate with everybody, how to learn the languages, was because their black wives taught them how to subdue the land. All right, because you got to understand this. The Afro people were close. All right, so the Afro people were close. All right. So what's up, Eric Elder? The Afro people were close, and so the black woman taught the Caucasian men how to subdue the land. So now let's get back to daughters of the trade and put it on there. What's up, Mr. Pirate Brian? In my studies, in my research, and other people's research, this thing goes just about like this. You got the Europeans, mainly the Dutch, who started this, goes to Africa, they start trading, and they can't get past the beach without dying of something. The black women start taking to the liking to one of them and teaches them the ways and brings them into the interior, teaches them how to navigate the interior. As a result of such, the Europeans bring their custom of marriage in that says, okay, we married one of your daughters, so we need to be part of your community and we need to have a say and stuff like that because we get to say through her. All right. But then when they had their children, the children then became a full part of the community, but superior to the community at the same time. The children were the inroads to how they were able to go through and learn all these languages so that they could negotiate and figure out how to do this thing. You had the greed of the European and the desire for riches, which said that they wanted manual labor, but they didn't want to pay for it. And do like scripture says, a laborer is worthy of his hire. Right? All right, so basically, they wanted to, well, get free labor with no pay. They took their concubines, all right, because now, as a result of the beginning of the slave trade, the black women that went over, think about it, 2/3 of the people that came over on the ships were males. Understand this. No way did, if they weren't wanted labor, they're not going to get women for labor, right? Most of the people that came over on the ships that was down there in the holes were males. Only 1/3 were females. And that's because the Caucasian males had wiped up most of these females. So by the time they got over here, the French, the Dutch, and the Spanish, And like I gave you the story of what happened to the Aztecs, Cortez ended up marrying or having as a concubine a woman that could speak the languages of the Portuguese and the Spaniards and the native languages. All right. So this is what they did. When they came in as friends and stabbed everybody in the back. When the Caucasians came and defeated everybody, they didn't defeat them in war. They defeated them because they were so dirty that they killed everybody through germ warfare, through diseases that they had never known. Take, for instance, like syphilis. It's a spirochete. It comes from sheep in Europe. So who's screwing sheep to start syphilis? Think about that for a minute. So as this stuff happens, now you got another thing that come in the way. As I told you before in another video, when we covered how Montezuma figured that Christianity was close to their cannibalism religion because it's the same thing, only they do it for real, right? But in that video, one of the things we noted is this, that when I showed you my notes from geography, from my geography notes and stuff like that, and the history and why things were the way it was, what they did was they divided people based on color and your relation to even the Dutch, the Portuguese, and all of everybody did this except for one group. That's the English. What happened to black women for them to lose their status and cause us to forget their treachery, all right, was the English. Because this is what happened. And this is probably something that everybody is well aware of. The black woman has always sold out to get the trinkets and stuff that the Caucasians had, thinking that they would last forever. And they didn't. All right. They ended up even owning more slaves like they did. All right. And so what ends up happening is this. That you have this Louisiana Purchase where, well, let's not even talk about the Louisiana Purchase, right? Let's stay on this for a minute. So all throughout history, rarely, if ever, were black women being raped as the way we saw it, until probably the English took over. But the first part of the history of the slave trade, the black women were the concubines and wives of the traders. All right. Their offspring only start mixing in with the dark people in the United States after the Louisiana Purchase. Because as I talked about before in my research while I was in school, all right, that During the time when Napoleon owned the territories in the United States, they had the same policy as the Dutch and everybody else. All right, so understand this. Oh yeah, that's where you learn a lot of stuff in microbiology. All right, I'm gonna tell you, microbiology taught me the importance of the Bible. That's another story. I did a video about it. I'll probably have to redo that one. All right, but anyway, so here's the thing. These women were willing to destroy their culture, their lands, and everything to have these little trinkets, these little neat things. And you know why they wanted them? Because they wanted to make themselves better than the other Afro women. All right? They didn't care that they were under the Caucasian woman. They do now. Their only concern was to be better than the other people in the hood. You know, the same thing they teaches their sons to beat other children up if they don't got Jordans. If they do have Jordans, beat them up to take the Jordans off of them. That's where that mentality comes from. So they've been selling us out real bad from the beginning. All right. So now what happens? What happens now is they develop these high societies where they're living and mixing in with everybody, with the French culture, with the Dutch culture, with the Portuguese culture, with the Spanish culture. The United States starts winning these wars, the French-American War, the beef with England, and stuff like that. All right. And this is why you will find that, especially when doubling down, many of the black women really don't have no heart when it comes to dealing with the Afro man. Is because deep in their DNA, they know that they have had the status of above everything. The only problem that they had was something called the Gullah Wars. The Gullah Wars was the Native and Aboriginal people getting together and fighting the English or the United States for rights and freedom, right? And they were winning. And see, the black woman made a miscalculation as to how strong the resolve of the good man is that could stay away from them. All right. And so when the English got the French territories, and to refresh your memories, the reason why they got the French territory was because Napoleon's army lost to the Haitians, which lost them the plantations in Haiti. And the reason why they lost to the Haitians, because the first thing that the Haitians did was got rid of that Christian religion that was keeping them weak. Oh, sort of like what's happening to the Afro men now. Remember, everybody that wants us to stay in the Christian religion is the black woman. They won't date you, do anything else. If you're a thug and go to church with them and hold their hand in church, you can have all the booty you want. But don't be a good man and stand on your own. They don't want that. They don't want strength in the Afro man, because it's a threat to their power. Their power comes from the laws of the government that we're all forced to follow, because truth be told, we are still under slavery. Okay, so now you got this stuff going on. All right, you have things going on. Hold on. So what happens next? The English come in, they start winning, things go their way, they get the territory. And I start thinking that the Most High is using wickedness to punish the woman. Like I said about the thugs are a punishment to the black woman that kept choosing them. And if they chose this system and threw away the man, it's about time for them to pay for that. When they chose to be with these the French and all of that stuff and sell us out, when the English took over, they sold everybody out, and the next day they were the same to the English as any other so-called black person. So they went from having status under the French, under the Portuguese, under everybody, to now, because the United States was gaining in power, they went from having status, throwing it up in the dark people's face, which they still did, the brown paper bag at the universities and all of that stuff, that only allowed the light-skinned people in that could pass the brown paper bag test. Oh yeah, the HBCUs is wicked in a lot of this too. But when the English got this, understand this, when the English got the French territories overnight, they went from all up mixing with the Caucasian people to, okay, all right, the party's over, time for y'all to get the hell out. What? But this is our home. No, you're black now. No, we're mixed. No, if you have one drop, you're black. And English at the time, or the United States, did not tolerate miscegenation. That is, black women with white men. The men got in trouble. All right. White woman with black men, the women and the man got in trouble. Do you know who never really suffered any consequences for screwing everybody? Yes, you guessed it, the black woman. At no point did she get any punishment for breaking those laws. Sort of like she gets no punishment for breaking a lot of laws, like lying and putting innocent men in prison, destroying a lot of their lives. All right. This is why the black woman seems so heartless. The other reason why she seems so heartless is she had all this over everybody because of who she was laying up with. Not even as a wife. It's because even the French didn't have her as a wife. She was a concubine. Now, when she produced a child with the French took the child because that child became the father. Okay. Oh yeah, and so basically, from the beginning, daughters of the trade. So let me go back to it and switch the background. All right, and even on Google, I looked at stuff, and so you got there's definitely some black women working in Google because of what's happening to my channel. So I wanted to test to see would it be worth monetizing, and what happened is somebody would okay all my videos come in for review. Somebody would review it, then okay it, then somebody else will re-review it and say no, it's not okay. So it told me I had more than one person reviewing my videos, and you had people Hey, Francisco, ¿cómo va você? You had people that so there's some hanky panky going on, and I called Google out. I said there's racism in the people that's looking at my videos and determining whatever, right? So when we look at this daughters of the trade, all right. Oh man, I'm by the bus station. Oh, I just figured out what you were saying. So I'm by the bus station. All right, and sorry, it's just going to be kind of like that. That's why I'm kind of up on my thing, right? And so basically, what you're going to have is that we have been sold a bill of goods that said, and these women was that say we always had your back. No, they never had our back, right? We had their back because we were blind to what was really going on. Okay, and so basically, no, they have never had our backs ever, never, ever, never, never, ever, never, never, never had our backs. So now you start having a couple of issues here. All right, and the issues go such as this. Hey, what's up, Mr. Pirate Veins? Yeah, it is. It is. All right, and so basically, and I believe that they specifically wanted to review my page. All right, they specifically wanted to review it. Every last video, almost they've confirmed by manual review. All right, and I know that's bull. All right, and I'm like, if my channel is basically the same through and through, no nudity, none of that stuff, but talking about the same subject, and some of the stuff is green, but most of it is gold, and then the green stuff then turns to gold. That yeah, there is blatant racism going on with Google. Hold on, I'll show you what I mean. All right, so here's my page, right? All right, and this is why I say these are our adversaries, and the people trying to protect these women that's causing us and our community much harm, that's trying to prevent us. All right, here's the thing. Everyone on, you can make a living talking about anything on Google except if you're an Afro man talking about your community. All right, so now let me show you something. See this green one right here, another Afro athlete ruined by false charges. Okay, well, that's because they see a Caucasian woman in the thing, right? But every video that has primarily a black woman and it's about them, right? It then gets confirmed by manual review. All right. And this is basically my entire channel, right? And so I only, as y'all saw before, I only did this page, right? They went after the biggest videos first to make sure that I would not make any money on them. All right. So that's what they did. All right. And so I started to get it. Yeah, you got some wickedness going on here. All right. So these were confirmed by manual review. And then what I did was I demonetized the rest of my channel. Okay, I started taking the monetization away from the rest of my channel, right? Because I said this is some blatant racism, right? And so as I started to do that, I started seeing some things turn back green, right? But tomorrow, the stuff that's green is going to be back to yellow, confirmed by manual review. So it's been going on like that. All right, it's been doing this for a while. All right, some new person named Maribel she's starting to look in on my channel, and I'm seeing some of the stuff start to turn green. All right, but the videos that's getting the most views, like the black women prison guards, all right, they're taking them down. All right, so that's basically what's going on here. All right, and why is it going on? It's because you're not allowed to tell the truth and wake brothers up. Because the only time we could be used is if we continue to stay asleep in all of this. And some of us got tired of being asleep. And some of us was never asleep. We just didn't know. But because we weren't asleep, we was always searching for the answer. All right. We was always searching for the answer because we wasn't asleep. All right. And so I see a lot of things, right? And so as I'm putting this together for y'all right now, so you got the French and all of that, but then you got the United States that comes into power. They now start changing the narrative. The one drop rule is no longer who your father is. All right, this started for everybody after Louisiana Purchase because the United States got most of the French territories. Okay, and so we're still being sold out by the ones that saying we ain't selling you out. We had your back. We had your back. After you did, we marched for you. Yeah, after they killed you, we marched for you. And for the life of me, I don't know how that is having my back to run and yell at people after I'm dead so you can be seen on camera. Because that's all that's about, right? It doesn't have any substance. All right, it's something that they do so they can argue. We marched for you. All right, yeah, it was easy for them to march for anybody. They ain't doing nothing else. What you doing? You at work? Oh, I lost my job last week. You lost your 5th job in 5 weeks? Shoot. Well, let's go march. Do you know the dude or the situation? No. But it's gonna be a bunch of us women. It's women power. So let's go march. And then after they march and start betraying you and putting you in jail for some false stuff because they couldn't get their way, then they'll be like, well, you should be cutting for the black woman because we marched for you. Well, first of all, you didn't march for me. Well, we marched for that guy after he was dead. You see what I mean? And so this is what this is what's going on. So when the English took over, and it feels like the English feel like they gave reparations to everybody they have wronged. And I believe welfare and Section 8 was on top of getting them to destroy the community was something that they gave the black woman. Because when they gave it to white people, they gave it to the entire family as a whole, father, mother, children. But when they gave it to black people, you know, they gave it to the black woman only. And so she raised the crap that we got, which is a poor excuse for a community. Oh, and that still isn't a problem. We still probably could have raised up and survived some of that, except we had one other problem. They killed a fourth to a third of us through abortion. And we cannot make that up. It's difficult to make that up. All right. So it is what it is. All right. Now, and so what happened is this. Oi, Mimi. All right. So what happens is this, that as a result of all of this, right, the black woman is now, and this is why she's so angry. She is put in a status to going where people had put her above everybody else, not because of anything she did, but because she laid down and gave them some. She laid down and gave them children. She is angry because everybody, to include herself, tried to do to us, the Afro men. We started to still achieve. We started to still achieve in our physical prowess, in our mental prowess. We invented and created a whole lot of things we didn't get the credit for. Like Dennis Neary, Jack Daniels. All right, the guy that invented the stoplight. How about open heart surgery, invented by a Afro man? And we're talking about stuff in medicine, the blood banking system. Afro man. All right. And so basically what happened is they've been saying they had our back. And so we start studying because we're looking at the current behavior and thinking, where did this behavior come from? As if it was new. And as we start looking into it, come to find out it isn't new. And then with Google, YouTube, Facebook, especially Facebook, we started to see the real truth. Hold on for a second, y'all. I'm gonna go pay for my meal real quick. And so, as you see in the picture, the black woman has always loved to be paraded around on the Caucasian man's arm. Hold on for a second. Você tem quarto, cara? Eu levar para aqui amanhã. Eu vou amanhã. Eu gosto aqui. Hã? Não, eu vou no outro hotel. Um problema, quando eu fazendo para trip, eu fico aqui para 41 dias. Um, Hotel Travelocity in Priceline permite 22. Ok. Problema. E, e, e 30, 31, primeiro de janeiro e segundo de janeiro. Muito alto na cidade. Aqui mesmo, eu sei, ok, tá bom, mesmo. Sim, but eu gosto aqui. Yeah, muito fazer aham. Muito fazer fazer trabalho. So eu faço muito vídeos. Agora eu faço um vídeo ao vivo. No YouTube, sim. Aham. Um, agora eu falo com slavery. Escravidão. Escravidão. Não. So, sim. Okay. So, escravidão. That's what they call slavery. Escravidão. I usually have to tell somebody, esta não sua escrava, right? Meaning I'm not your slave, right? And so basically, so this is what's going on here, all right? And so they lost all their status in one day. All right, now you can see why they're angry. Now they are being seen as the same as everybody else that looked like them. And they don't like that. It's because they were separated from us because they were the ones that were laying out, popping out the mulattoes. The mulattoes had a status that was above us too because of their color, not because they were better at anything. All right, so in France, all right, some of them went back to France. All right, but in Louisiana and stuff like that, in New Orleans, when the mulattoes had to go back into the Afro community because the English said, one drop, you black, period, right? This forced them to try to blend into the community, and music was the thing where the brothers got along well. And so you come up with jazz. You come up with a improvisational way to play European style music. All right. For the black woman, not that easy, that were married to these Caucasian men. And had the English tolerated it, like the ones that came over on the ship, many black women would have married them. Obrigado. Okay, so hold on for a second. I'm gonna move my stuff real quick. All right, I got to figure out how I'm gonna get all this stuff back. I'm probably just gonna go to the hallway and finish. All right, so hold it. Let me move for a hot second. All right, this is going to be interesting. Okay, I'm making it. Why not you? All right, so basically you have what you have, right? Well, all right, so faz vídeo ao vivo. So this is what we have, y'all, okay? Hopefully I'm not going to lose my feed because I'm moving. And lost it. I'm back. Okay. Oh boy. All right, for the run, brother. Great. You won't have to listen to a bunch of noise. Although I'm messing up all kind of other stuff. All right. So, all right. Didn't lose y'all. All right, so basically, now let's get down to the real nitty and the gritty. Okay, got it. All right, so hold on. All right, so now you got all this ratchetness going on, all this betrayal going on, and you've always had it from the beginning of slavery. Again, slavery could not have begun, not chattel slavery. All right, and remember, we're talking about chattel slavery. History teaches us that slavery would not have begun without the desire for the black women to want to be better than the other black women by having a white man. Because better wasn't being treated better. Better was like, I got the stranger and you don't. And even when people pointed out, well, the stranger is destroying the community, the land, everything. The black woman didn't care because it was all about that. As a matter of fact, it's the same way they do now. If you look at the black woman and you talk about her offspring, the thugs and stuff like that, that's destroying the land, right? Well, because they created them, the first thing they say is, well, they need love, thugs need love, and well, where are you black men at? Okay, well, I'm gonna tell you where the black men at. We are not in the community because you didn't want us there. The only ones you wanted in the community was the criminals, the thugs, and you destroyed manhood in any child that grew up under your care. Why? Because having them parade around, dancing around like Beyonce was cute to you. So you robbed them of manhood. All right, so they're through. All right, and then the real men, we was like, all right, we see what time it is. We don't want nothing to do with you. Period. Now we're through. So now you running around looking, trying to find a way out of the mess that you've created. Only to find out there's really no way out. Because you created the mess. Who did? The black woman. Now, here's the thing. There's something called repentance. And of course, we're not talking about all the black women at the time, because some were slaves. All right. There were some that were slaves. All right. Most of them were wives or concubines. Let's make sure we get this understood. Most of the slaves were Afro men, 2/3. All right, let me put it this way. Most of the Afro people, most of the black people that they refer to that came over here, 2/3 of them were men. All right. It's questionable as to how many of the women out of the 1/3 were wives and concubines and how many were actual slaves. All right. Now, you got ignorant people that's trying to promote this black woman is God mess, and the black woman, the black mom, all up here with African stuff on and beads and stuff, not telling y'all the truth. And they won't tell you the truth because the truth actually hurts. I ain't gonna lie, it hurts me to understand how bad the betrayal was from of black women to us, the Afro people. All right, this is a woman that most of us, if we be honest, we tried to show love to most of our lives. All right, we've now the difference between us, we've always understood that something is just dang wrong with our community, and for some of us, we pointed the finger. We literally pointed the finger at ourselves first. See, that's the difference. The Afro man, the ones that woke up, we woke up because we pointed the reason why we're stronger at waking up. I'm gonna tell you this. I'm gonna tell you this. The reason why we are more aware of everything and that we go midtown and separate ourselves and we start calling out the simps, because when we saw something was wrong in the community, the first thing we did was we looked to men. We looked to even ourselves, and we pointed the finger at ourselves. Only the people that didn't want to understand that like some of the stuff is self-inflicted, only those people kept looking and saying it's the government's fault. It's the white man keeping us down. No, the white man was making policies to keep us down. All right. And as he created stuff, I'm going to tell you something. And I'm going to just keep this real. If black people would have never lined up with this black woman to sell out hip hop to white people, just think how big we would have been in the industry. I want y'all to grasp that for a moment. If we would have stayed in control of our own stuff and not sold it out, think about the music we would have still been putting out. We still would have been putting out KRS-One, Chuck D type music. Yes, even Flavor Flav. All right. we would have been putting all of this out. We would not have been putting out. I think NWA would have made it because they had something to say. If you really listen to them, all right, and not to the hype, all right. Now, after they split from NWA and turned into the Chronic and all the rest of that stuff and Aftermath, that's when it went downhill. All right. But when they was talking about the streets, that's what was happening in the streets. All right. When these movies was coming out portraying the grit of the streets and how bad it was to the community. You understand? New Jack City. When we was putting out movies like that, all right, we're not doing that anymore. We're not doing that because it's not permitted. I'm going to tell you something else too. Now we do have the system trying to keep us shut down, but I don't think we have the Caucasian, I don't think it's the Caucasian man within this system that is shutting us down. For the life of me, it looks like the BAW who is working for the Caucasian man is trolling for those that's trying to wake the brothers up. Is because in order to wake the brothers up, we have to be telling the truth about something. Y'all understand? All right. We have to be telling the truth about something. All right. You're not, everybody like, oh, woke this, woke that, bull. All right. They're not woke. They ain't sleep either. All right. But they're not woke.
And out there.
Hold on for a second. I want to see if y'all are going to be able to hear this.
I saw. By positioning themselves as your Africans or and having European names with their European husbands. Women live in one compound, men live in another compound.
This is the part I want.
And he was well acquainted with time. Perhaps they compared notes and made bets about which among the new arrivals would survive the longest in Africa. Far from all Europeans made it.
All right, so here it is, Daughters of the Trade, and she's reading a little taste of her book. Now I want to play y'all some stuff right here, and we're going to skip. We might skip forward a little bit because I kind of know where this is going. All right, so this is from her book, and this is Dr. Ibsen who did the research. So I hope y'all can see this, right? Make sure my volume's right. All right, hope y'all can hear this.
Some stayed only till the next ship left the coast. Many got sick and some died.
She's talking about the Caucasian people. So when they got there, they stayed only until the next ship left, and many that were there got sick or died, right? So what was keeping them from dying? What happened after that? And I recommend that y'all look at this Daughters of the Trade, but I'm gonna play a little bit so y'all can understand the real deal of what was going on.
Coco was exiled to France not many years after that. Sedusu had probably concluded that France would be a good trading ally, which he was, but the marriage was at least as important for the Dane. Over the next decades, he did extremely well in Africa. Surviving on the coast was itself an achievement that could mean rapid advancement, but marrying into one of the most powerful trading families in Rousseau also helped. After a few years, Franz was promoted to assistant and sent on expeditions on behalf of the Danish West India and Guinea Company, carrying messages and presents to the king of Akwamu. Within 6 years, he was appointed chief assistant at the fort, and by the time he was appointed governor in 1711, he was well acquainted with several languages, as well as the Portuguese lingua franca on the coast. By that time, Coco and Franz had one child together, who was followed by another, a son who bore the very Danish name David Franzen. He, like their marriage, was born of the trade. So in the first generation of interracial marriages that I write about in the book, most of the women who married European traders, they could be Danes, they could be Norwegians, there are a number of Norwegians, and Germans at Christiansborg. Most of the women are of only African descent. So they have, I know this because they have African names like Coco, which is the typical Ga name for a second daughter. And they live in family compounds. So the Ga families traditionally live in gender segregated compounds. So women live in one compound, men live in another compound. The women will live with their sisters, with their mother, with their aunts, with all the female relatives of their family and their children until the children reach puberty, by which time the boy will move into the father's compound and the girl will stay in the household. So Coco would have lived in a compound with her mother and all her female relatives. Franz would have lived on the fort. What happens over the course of the 18th century is that that a cultural frontier, you might call it, if you were an academic, shifts in the direction of European families, so that by the end of the 18th century, I start seeing a number of women moving in with their white husbands in stone houses, if they're very wealthy, or at least visiting a lot at the fort, or even they weren't allowed to actually live at the fort, but they move into separate houses with their European husbands. I don't think they lived alone with their European husbands in a traditional nuclear family of any kind. I think the cases that I know well enough to say something about it suggest, and it also would be reasonable to assume that actually these were still matriarchal or matriarchal households where the European man came and went. So European men did not stay on the coast most often very long. They died, they got sick, they went home, they left, they went to the Danish West Indies, but the household stays. And so what I see is a shift towards a situation where a few now Euro-African women get prestige, wealth, very high standing in the community by having had European ancestors, so European fathers, European grandfathers, European great-grandfathers, and having European names, and sending their children to the European.
So y'all can y'all hear that? All right. So basically, what you have here is you got Black women that sold out the community because they got prestige from doing so. All right. As this went further, they no longer were African. What's up, Captain Marvel? Hey, what's up, Julian Benton and Hunter Rett? All right. They were no longer African. They start acting European, right? And so when the slave trades begin, they help facilitate the capturing, the kidnapping of Afro people. All right. So y'all understand.
And for school, there's it produces a ton of violence, and has to, because you can't actually enslave people without violence, right? Because they will resist. They will try to not become enslaved, right? And so
understand this. This is why you have so much violence in Africa. All right. All of the customs of the Europeans when they went to Africa sowed nothing but violence between them and the Africans. Period. Let's make this understood. It sowed the seeds of violence. All right. And the same way you got the same women, think about this. The same women you got running around YouTube actually telling people that they need to get rid of that they want us exterminated. The same women that blocks us from trying to achieve any kind of success in trying to earn an honest living, as they say. All right, understand this. Are the same women that would have sold us out all throughout our history. All right, you know, you like the colorism woman, you like the crystal glass colorism. All right, telling and saying how good it's so, and a lot of these women, all right, when they get with these men, talking about they respecting us. How come you won't stand up to us, to the white man? Because you chose the white man. All right, they actively chose this man and then want me to have a problem with it. All right, and so this is basically what you have. Hold on. And this is their legacy, but they want to deny this legacy. But research is blowing them, blowing this legacy up. Hold on, let me see where this is.
in the years following Franz Kuber's death, Lene continued to live in the house that she had shared with her Danish husband. There were very few stone houses in Osu, and they signaled both wealth and power. Around the time Lene was born, Frederik Svane had begun building one close to Christiansborg, just beyond the small clay huts that housed the surplus population of Fort slaves. Svane had bought Governor Boris's summer house for an acre of brandy and had dismantled stone by stone. He collected other stones from near and far and had them all carried to the building site, but the work was never finished. By the time Lene lived in her own house, it was both a base of her operations as a trader and a mark of her status.
So did y'all hear this? So she has a Danish husband. She lives by a slave fort. They build her a stone house. That is a mark of her, a black woman, being a slave trader. Understand this, and a mark of her status. When I kept telling y'all that I was like, something's wrong. We've been sold out from the beginning. I kept saying, now other things are backing me up. Hold on, let's go back a little bit.
To wait on him personally at the fort. So, Sophia, would you turn the light on again? So I will read you the beginning of this, and then of chapter 4, and then I think it'll be close to time to end, because I was planning on 40 minutes, and I now have 5.5 left, so that's excellent. So this couple that I start chapter 4 with, which starts in 1769, is Lene the Mulatress or Mulatress, and Lene Kuber, as she was known in the community in Osu, and Franz Kuber, who came out from Copenhagen as surgeon in 1756. Helene Kuba is one of the daughters of the trade. She's maybe my best example of somebody who in the 18th century sets up a household around a European man, the way that I was describing before. And the chapter is called Danish Christian Mulatresses. In 1769, Lene Kuba's husband died in his rooms at Christiansborg, not in the house he shared with Lene and Nusu. Yet his death reverberated in both worlds. Interim governor Franz Joachim Kuba was well known in Osu, having lived in Africa longer than most European men. He was first hired as surgeon at Christiansborg in 1756, but soon advanced to trader and was stationed at the Danish trading post at Kita, further east down the coast, for a number of years. In 1768, he returned to Christiansborg to serve as governor. By then, he was accustomed to a high level of comfort. He had 5 slaves just to wait on him personally at the fort. His death was marked at the fort with a full ceremony he had requested, an honorable funeral with cannon salutes and the flag on half-mast. He saw to his affairs in Osu with equal attention to detail, requesting that the secret council made sure that Lene, all those people who worked for him, and people in Osu generally had what they needed to perform a proper service in his memory. Money for mourning costumes, food, and drinks. His 2 favorite slaves, he told the council, should go to his daughter, Anna. In the years following Franz Kuba's death, Lene continued to live in the house that she had shared with her Danish husband. There were very few stone houses in Osu, and they signaled both wealth and power. Around the time Lene was born, Felix Svane had begun building one close to Christiansborg, just beyond the small clay huts that housed the surplus population of fort slaves. Svane had bought Governor Boris's summer house for an acre of brandy and had it dismantled stone by stone. He collected other stones from near and far and had them all carried to the building site, but the work was never finished. By the time Lene lived in her own house, it was both a base of her operations as a trader and a mark of her status. Unlike many West African women who made their living through trade, she probably did not sit in the market herself. We can imagine her helping her slaves set up a stall with goods and meals to sell, and at home she would have overseen the management of her large household.
So, we'll pause that right there. So, what's up, USMC vet? Semper Fi, man, Semper Fi. I don't know if I got you, DK Phantom. All right, so are y'all understanding now? All right, Daughters of the Trade. Review that whole video. It's an eye-opener. All right, so this gives you a whole new perspective of the black man ain't never did nothing for nobody, right? Whereas it should be the black woman has always been an obstruction to the freedom of Afro people. Period. All right, and you don't need all of them to be an obstruction. I'm pretty sure that there are probably some good black women working at Google right now, but we know that I got 1 or 2 that's been on my channel almost since the takedown, right? Since before the takedown, to slow my channel up. This has been happening for years now, and they threaten that these are women from Google. I think they're from Google, but threatened me that they had the know-how and the means to slow my channel down. They gave me a cease my channel, cease talking about or making people aware of what's going on with black women, or they'll do something with my channel. That's how I know that what was going on. And I told Google that what's going on with my channel is outright racist and sexist. I should have said, well, you know what? I may have saved the threats, but I don't know what I did with them. All right. So this is the nature of what's been going on. Dang, y'all, I gotta pack, be out tomorrow. But anyway, so this is the nature of what's been going on. All right. And so these women have been betraying us from the beginning. They've been betraying us from the beginning. All right. Our problem right now is we got to fight on our hands, and it's not with the black woman. They have no power over us. They have no power over any man that has started to awake. If we have a good woman by our side, they have no power over her. The reason why these black women are starting to suffer is because they are totally on their own now. The simps can't help them because but had nothing, right? Dudes like me, we start to see them as how wicked they really have been towards us. So I'm not helping them. All right. I really don't have a patience for any women that think that they're going to try to run me. I just don't have that kind of patience. Right. And so this is basically it. And so this woman has been just the piece for every Caucasian group that set foot in Africa. All right. And so we wonder, because most of us are Aboriginal, how they got a foothold. And surely enough, a lot of our cultures end up being betrayed by these women. Right? Because they want something different. Not good, not better, just different. Don't have to be good so they could say they did it. The best way I could put it is I seen some of the dudes come down here to Brazil. All right. I've seen some dudes come down here to Brazil. And they sit up there and they talk like, oh man, I had me a Brazilian, this, that, and the other. And I was like, okay, so and what? Or these dudes that be like, oh man, this is a fine woman, and the first thing they do is turn her around and say, show your behind. Now I love the body of a nice looking woman. Don't and for the ones that ain't ashamed to show it off, I don't have a problem with it. But I'm not gonna act like that the only good part of the woman is her behind. But for the dudes that do, that shows you what not only what they think about the woman, all right, but it shows you how their mamas raised them. All right, let's say that. It shows you exactly how their mama raised them. Understand that. Hold on for a second. All right, so So that's basically it. I was having a talk with one here. All right. And we had to, and it's the same mentality, the same Americanized mentality. Hold on for a second. One, two, three. Okay, I think I'm still on. So far, my thing hasn't paused, so or something's going on. All right, y'all let me know if y'all can still hear me. All right, so anyway, so we've let a lot of stuff like this go. And remember, the problem here is that these women have never had our backs. And now I'm gonna give you a simple way to understand whether or not you know if a black woman has your back. She's with you. Understand this. The only way you know that a black woman has your back is if she is with you. And that means that she is following your rules, your ways, and stuff like that, that you rule the house, right? And she helps you. That's a black woman that has your back. If a black woman come and want to be in a relationship with you and she talking that 50-50 crap, then she don't have your back. She's looking for you to have her, just help her in her wicked ways and endeavors. But she don't have your back. You'd be a fool to think she does. Don't be a fool.
Brothers, you need to understand that you need to watch your back and let them hit that wall on their own. And remember, let them know it's a no depolicing zone. They didn't depolice for that representative in Virginia. They didn't depolice for these women that sold us out and daughters of the trade. So F them if they try to depolice us now. All right. So with that said, I'm out.